This is WaXed.
Well, holla, you surfers, you goddamn nerds. I'm just kidding. We're all part of the tribe. How are the breaks looking? Got some lefts, some rights, some green rooms, A-frames?
A weekly surf talk radio show.
Hopefully when you go out there, you'll find your green card and surf on the home. F***ing poser.
With your hosts, Cyrus, Saatsaz.
All I need are some tasty waves, cool buzz, and I'm fine.
Omar, Etcheverry.
Locals only, you f***ing grommet. Stay off my beach!
And Natalie Rose with the news and weekend surf report.
Surfing is out of this world. You just can't imagine the thrill of shooting the curl. Well, it positively surpasses every living emotion I've ever had.
On ESPN 1700.
Yeah, good morning, San Diego. My name is Cyrus, Saatsaz, one of the hosts of WaXed Surf Talk Radio here on ESPN 1700. In case you've heard of the show before or have listened to the show before and you're wondering, what are these guys doing this late in the day, 10 a.m., we are literally the only show on the station that is sponsored by the station. What I mean by that is, like, this is a 100% station-supported show. Our sincerest thanks to station management, including Norm Fuhrer and beyond, Mike Shepard, the program director. But because of that, because we don't actually buy the airtime, if someone else wants the hour, it is theirs. They pay for it, we don't. So we are the floating show of the station. So time to time, we are going to move around. As a result, the best way to keep track of where we are is to follow us on Twitter at WaXed Radio. Again, our Twitter handle is at WaXed Radio. And, of course, our website is waxedradio.com, where we podcast every segment of every show. Omar, Etcheverry, Natalie Rose, myself, Cyrus Saatsaz represent the program. O-Dog should be on the phone. O-Dog, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing amazing. How you doing? You should have thought of something else, like we raged last night, you know? That's why we're on later. You got to come up with a better story.
Fair enough.
We got completely hammered. We went to Vegas, and then we drove home after we partied.
Yeah, that could work, too.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, regardless, just follow us on Twitter at WaXed Radio, so that way you keep track of us if we ever have to move time slots, so wherever we are, because we might have to move from time to time. But nonetheless, our sincerest debt of gratitude to the folks here at ESPN 1700 for just putting our show on the air and sponsoring us. Thank you very much. You're up in Reading, is that right? Omar? Oh, is that a cell phone crapping out?
Yeah, I think so. We're still connected, but I don't think he's getting a good connection.
O-Dog, are you in and out?
I'm alive.
There we go. Well, you're a Santa Cruz boy, and like one of the best swells of the year is hitting Santa Cruz right now. It's on the verge of passing us. This amazing south that started out south of Chopu, hit that spot, created incredible waves down there, and it's reaching us. But Santa Cruz is geared for the swell, and you have to go to Reading for a wedding. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, I'm in Reading. Oh, gosh, this place.
That's harsh. Feel free, brother.
But no, very harsh. I think I looked at the waves to our left, and they're saying the best swell for the whole year. Great.
Oh, dude, it's incredible. You posted a photo of it that I saw online that just made me go, wow. But that swell is down here also. In just a moment, we're going to have Surf Report to tell you what's happening with the surf throughout the weekend. Natalie Rose will have that for you. And in about 10 minutes, one of the greatest legends ever in surfing, Gerry Lopez, is going to join the program. He's going to promote this documentary that Patagonia is presenting. They're going to have screenings of it throughout. We'll get into that during the interview. But Gerry Lopez on the program, very excited about that. And then later on, we're going to talk about this surf contest in Fiji, right, O-Dog?
That's right. I mean, it kicked off with amazing waves and, had a couple of historic heats by John and Nat Young. So great stuff.
Dude, those John waves were unreal. I mean, those were incredible.
Unbelievable, and I mean, the whole judging panel is, they definitely have their work cut out for them with this event. The waves are so good, they're doing a good job, but boy, it's tough. A lot of people thought it could have been 210s. It almost was, but yeah, what an amazing heat.
Seriously, dude, the whole event's been fantastic. They've run 2 days so far. They haven't completed round 3 yet, but we'll talk about that later on. But let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get a surf report with Natalie Rose, and then after that, we'll get Gerry Lopez here on WaXed on ESPN 1700.
Visit our website, waxedradio.com, to get complete show podcasts and follow us on all social media at WaXed Radio. Now, here's your weekend surf report.
Yeah, there's a massive south swell that's been hitting the area. Is it still around? How good is it? Natalie Rose has that information for you. Natalie, take it away.
Well, that south-southwest groundswell is still rolling in, and it's leaving the beaches with waves, and more waves to come. I was up in Newport yesterday, and it was definitely like 10 to 15 foot. But around the county, waves are anywhere from 4 to 7 feet, 2 to feet overhead, and occasionally 8. Surf conditions are a little bit smaller than yesterday, but they are more clean. Today's weather is mostly cloudy. It's a little windy this morning, but it's supposed to pick up as the afternoon goes on, the wind. So if you're going to surf, I suggest you get out there right after the show. And yeah, that south swell is hitting, and there's definitely waves. My suggestion spot for you, it is kind of making the beach breaks a little walled. So if you're going to hit anywhere, I would suggest like a reef or anywhere like Cardiff or Trestle, somewhere that catches the south swell, but leaves you some room to surf.
Absolutely. Most of the beach breaks are probably just closed out. Is that correct?
Yeah, like I saw Oceanside yesterday. It was pretty closed out, but you could hit a few corners and stuff. So
excellent.
And Newport was pretty walled yesterday too, as well.
For the people listening online at ESPN Radio 1700, you can stream our show live every time we're on just by going to ESPN Radio 1700. For those of you listening online up in Northern California, especially Santa Cruz, I mean the swell is just like making that place perfect right now, right, O-Dog?
Oh my gosh, it's been absolutely amazing. I mean, the day I left was probably about 3 to 6 foot, perfect southwest swell. The degrees on the south is about as good as you can get for Northern California. So, you know, a lot of guys traveled up there, professional surfers and photographers are all up there. So they're probably soaring, and I'm in Redding, and it's 115. Yippee.
Damn, that's see where you're at right now in Redding, California, which is just a really podunk. It's not a tiny town. It's got over 100,000 people living there, but it's like really in the middle of nowhere, sort of close to Chico, I believe an hour or two away from there. It's 115 degrees.
Dude, 115 it hit yesterday. Today's supposed to be cooling down at 108.
Jesus, dude, that is hot. That's like Death Valley hot. That's crazy. Hopefully it's dry at least. By the way, the folks over at Mike with PacificWaveWriter.com, great surf forecast site, he's in Ventura, so if you're listening there, and the show actually reaches there, which is crazy. He tweeted us at our Twitter handle at WaXed Radio. He's saying that Ventura County is overcast, smooth, and glassy at county line with 4 to 6 foot faces. Ventura Point was equal in quality and size. Both areas are breaking end to end. And he's saying the water is warm to the mid-60s, even warmer down here. I ditched the wetsuit about a week ago. Natalie, I don't know about you, but the wetsuit has been gone. But PacificWaveWriter.com is cautioning there's 2,700 AIDS life cyclists that are leaving Ventura to finish a San Francisco to LA ride on the PCH. So be warned, there are 2,700 annoying bike riders on the PCH you may have to avoid. They're going to be causing a lot of traffic today. And that is your Weekend Surf Report. Why don't we get to Gerry Lopez, the legend himself, next here on WaXed on ESPN 1700.
Visit our website, waxradio.com, to get complete show podcasts and follow us on all social media at WaXed Radio. Now, more Wax.
Yeah, welcome back to WaXed Surf Talk Radio here on ESPN 1700 in Southern California. Our next guest is, legend would be an understatement in terms of just what he has meant for the sport, what he has done for surfing, his accomplishments. He revolutionized the sport in a way I don't know anyone really has done before, and it's an absolute pleasure to have him on the program. Gerry Lopez. Gerry, how you doing?
Good. Well, who's that you were describing? It sure didn't sound like me, but I'll take it.
Well, look, humility is flattering, and it's very nice of you to say that, but it's fact. I mean, you exploded onto the scene in Hawaii in the late 60s, early 70s. You're one of the first surfers to start, taking shortboards into a whole new level of surfing. You're Mr. Pipeline. I don't think all these things were done, by anyone else. I'm pretty sure it's you. But, I guess starting things off, and I like to do a lot of research before I conduct these interviews and read about, my guests. And one thing that surprised me, I didn't know this beforehand, you don't live in Hawaii, even though you're born there and you're pretty much the king of Oahu. You're in Oregon, is that correct?
Yeah, we moved here about 20 years ago, and we love it.
And what took you from Hawaii to Oregon?
Well, we came one summer and liked what we saw, and we came back that winter, and it was the winter of 92, 93. We were just getting interested in snowboarding, and we really liked what we saw here in Central Oregon in the town of Bend. And on that trip, on the third day, the other couple we were with and my wife and I bought a house so we could, continue coming back.
That's crazy.
And they're also still here as well. And they were living on the Big Island, in Waimea. And we've been asked many times, all of us, why would you leave Hawaii to come here?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess our answer was always, well, I guess you've never been to Bend yet.
It is beautiful. I have been there. I would say the biggest shock for me, so I'm born and raised in Northern California. That's where I learned to surf. I spent, over 30 years of my life there, and then I've been in Southern California now for close to 2 years. And it took about a year for me to get soft in terms of dealing with the weather. It took about living here for 1 year before I suddenly realized it's cold everywhere else. And so when I found out you're living in Oregon, I guess for me the biggest surprise was, how does someone who has spent his entire life in a tropical paradise like Hawaii, where everything is better regardless of what it is, to Oregon where it is frigid? Like, how did you acclimate to that weather?
Well, actually, I've had a long association, worked with Patagonia for a lot of years, and they keep me very warm.
Yes. They make some amazing warm weather clothes. They're literally, I think, the most popular clothing brand in San Francisco, just because they make such good warm weather clothing, so I can understand that. Well,
among the snowboard and ski world here, whether they're sponsored riders or not, and whatever they're wearing on the outside, almost all of them are wearing Patagonia on the inside.
Yeah, it's an amazingly popular brand. And we're going to talk about Patagonia a bunch because they have a movie screening of one of your friends coming out soon. We're talking about Wayne Lynch. He has a new movie coming out, and there's going to be screenings of that. In fact, the movie is called Uncharted Waters. There's going to be 3 film screenings of that, June 20th in Santa Monica at the Broad Stage, June 21st at Cardiff, California, near where I live, at the La Paloma Theater, and then June 27th in New York, New York. Are you going to all 3 of those screenings?
Actually, I'm going to the Santa Monica one on the 20th and unable to make the next night because I'm going to a stand-up paddleboard race in Santa Cruz.
Wow.
On Saturday, and I don't think I could, do the show that night and then be there early enough in the morning in Santa Cruz to make the start of the event.
That's understandable.
But, that's really too bad because I love La Paloma. I mean, isn't that the classic surf movie theater?
The classic. And it's actually technically, this press release says Cardiff. It's actually in Encinitas, but yeah, it is. It's such a beautiful theater. And I know it's really old, but it doesn't feel old. It is. And when it comes to a surf movie, that is the mecca, really. When you think about it, of where to release a film. Are you featured in the documentary? Are you in it as well?
No, well, I haven't seen it yet, but I was interviewed. If they believed any of my lies, they might have put some of it in the film.
Love it.
Actually, your description in the beginning really could describe Wayne Lynch even much more than myself. He is truly a legend, and he, was really significant in that transitional period in the history of surfing from the longboard to the shorter boards. And he was, even though I'm older, I looked up to him.
Relatively speaking.
Did a lot of my friends.
Well, I've interviewed Sean Thompson before. I haven't had a chance to interview Wayne Rabbit Bartholomew, but I always feel like the 4 guys that sort of really changed the sport in such a drastic fashion was yourself, and then the names I just mentioned, and Wayne Lynch. I know you all didn't surf together at the same time, but is it like a fair assessment that you 4 were the ones that really kind of turned the sport away from just this log riding, just going down one straight line on a big wave to suddenly doing all these crazy bottom turn maneuvers and just, getting deep in barrels? Are you guys the guys that changed the sport, or are there other names I'm forgetting?
Actually, there was really a lot of guys, but Rabbit and Sean were very significant. I really believe that Wayne was probably the most significant because he was, along with Nat Young, who was, of course, much older than him, were really doing it before any of the other three of us. And, Wayne has had just such a tremendously long history in surfing, and still surfing as great as ever today. I mean, we just went on a surf trip a few years ago to Indonesia, and I was really amazed at, as much as he says how little he goes surfing these days, he hasn't really lost his edge one single bit.
That's really good to hear. And we're joined by Gerry Lopez here on WaXed. Take us back to those days. I mean, you were born on Oahu, if I'm not mistaken, and you started surfing there. You're born and raised Hawaiian boy. How have things changed, in your opinion? I know you still go back there a lot. How have things changed from that time period when surfing was exploding onto the scene, and then on top of that, the shortboard revolution was exploding onto the scene, to where it is today? I mean, is it drastically different? Is it similar? How is it different to you?
Well, there's just more people doing it. That's the main thing. And I don't think it's really changed in any way at all as far as the appeal of surfing, which is why it continues to become more popular, and, the population of surfing continues to grow. The surf spots are more crowded these days, but everybody's out there for the same thing, to get that ride, to get that thrill, to feel that sensation of gliding virtually like a bird, which is, I think, as close to flying as humans ever get. I think anybody who has ever ridden a surfboard, as you probably know, pretty much remembers that first wave, that first sensation of the glide.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why we spend our whole lives, trying to recapture that first moment over and over again.
It's true, and to be honest, you're always creating new memories of that glide. It's which is the beauty of it. But it's and you're right. The wave isn't going to change. Pipeline is pipeline, regardless. Do you see from a performance perspective? And again, we're joined by Gerry Lopez here on WaXed. From a performance perspective, whether it's Kelly Slater, whether it's like the really young guys like John Florence, do you see a drastic difference from when you were surfing it to what these kids are doing today?
Oh my God! I mean, it's off the scale. The performance level has risen so high, and these guys are so good. I don't think we could have even dreamt back in our day in our wildest dreams of ever surfing as well as someone like Kelly or even these young guys, John, and all these other young surfers that are just so talented today.
Right. Yeah.
It's out of this world. I mean, they are as close to walking on water as I think you could get.
It's true. It's a great way to describe it too. We're joined by Gerry Lopez here on WaXed. Going back to Oregon, I know you love to snowboard. At least in my experience, I've noticed that more people tend to transition from snowboarding to surfing. You sort of did the reverse. And the reason being mostly is because as you get older, falling on water is, completely different than falling on snow, especially if it's like hard ice and it's not, just fresh powder. But you did the reverse. I mean, you got older and then you started snowboarding. How did you suddenly develop this passion for snowboarding? I mean, what happened there?
Just tried it and went, wow, I really want to learn how to do this, and been doing that for the last 25 years.
Wow.
It's quite a thrill.
It is
as well, but I don't think anything comes close to surfing. When anybody asks me, well, which do you like better? It's no question at all. And even for a great many snowboarders, that earn their living snowboarding professionally, they'll always say, I like to go surfing.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I've always thought, that the snowboard, when it's a fresh powder day, when you've had a huge dump, snowboarding on a day like that comes close because you sort of get that gliding feeling to a certain degree. But that's that rare exception. Otherwise, yeah, there's no competition at all. But here you are. You're living in Oregon right now. How often do you snowboard? Are you out there almost daily, like during the winter season? Because I know the mountains out there have a really high elevation, so the snow is a lot better than most other places. So are you out there a lot? I mean, is it like maybe once a week? Like, how often do you go?
Well, I used to go every single day, which is why when we first moved here. But since then, I've become what you call a powder snob, and I only go when the snow's fresh or soft. And this year was the first time I broke a leg snowboarding, so I had to sit the winter out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just recovering from that now.
Oh, that's great. How'd you do that, if you don't mind me asking?
Just going too fast and running into something that didn't move.
Oh, like a rock?
Well, ice.
Oh, I know. I tore a meniscus in my knee from doing that, just charging. And I thought I was going to plow through this mound, and it was just ice.
Yeah.
And the whole thing just twisted. Yeah, it was a disaster. But yeah, snowboarding's fun. And we're joined by Gerry Lopez here on WaXed. He's promoting the screening of his friend Wayne Lynch's new documentary, Uncharted Waters, is presented by Patagonia, your sponsor. And there's 3 screenings, June 20th in Santa Monica, the Broad Stage, June 21st in Encinitas at the La Paloma Theater, and June 27th in New York, New York. If you visit surfing-blog.patagonia.com, or just go to patagonia.com, you'll find information about it. You've garnered, I've traveled a bunch in my years on some incredible surf trips, and almost everywhere I went, the best surfboard that everyone raved about, that everyone wanted, and that people performed on were your surfboards. The Gerry Lopez surfboard is almost like the pinnacle of just a beautifully designed, high-performance surfboard. And then I read... That surprises you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's true. People love your boards. And then now I read, though, that you also design snowboards. Is that true?
Well, I did that for a while when we first moved to Oregon. But, yeah, I don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay.
I went back to surfboards.
So you do still shape surfboards?
I do quite a bit, yeah.
And are they all custom? Do you design like a certain amount for different surf shops, or like how does that work?
Well, mostly just custom. That's how most surfboard builders are these days. The business has downsized quite a bit in general, and most surfboard builders develop a relationship with a group of surfers that like their boards and kind of progress. Their surfing level progresses, with the shapers' different designs.
Right. Yeah, I remember. I've seen your surfboards everywhere, and they're beauties. I hope one day to ride one. I haven't had a chance to. We're joined by Gerry Lopez here on WaXed. You're up in Oregon. Do you surf there? I've driven the coast once, if not twice, and I remember thinking to myself, "This is the windiest place I've ever been to in my life."
Well, it's not always windy.
True.
And it's always pretty doggone cold. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Colder than anywhere else. Well, Northern California, I guess, comes close. But I've been looking at a swell all week here that looks like it might be good Saturday and Sunday, so I'm probably going to head out there and see if it's what they predict.
And you're talking about the south swell that's coming in from where Chopu was firing earlier this week, correct?
Well, that's what you guys are going to get down in California.
Oh,
actually, this one's a west swell from a big storm up in the Bering Sea there.
When that happens, are those good? Those are usually a very short period.
It is a short interval swell, but you'll take it any way you can get it.
That's true. And you are Gerry Lopez. You can surf pretty much anything. So you might have fun. Is the water cold there to you? Have you adapted?
Well, the wetsuits have gotten so good these days, you barely get wet anymore.
It's true.
And, my standards have slid considerably since, my time at the pipeline, and I'll pretty much surf anything there is. And have a good time doing it.
That's true. If you Google the name Gerry Lopez, the photo, and then you go to the image gallery, the photos that appear there, and not to mention all the photos that have appeared in surf magazines, you have surfed some incredibly insane waves. So I'm sure very little things faze you. And I remember like a year or two ago, Kelly Slater came out. I've interviewed Kelly Slater 5 times, and there's very few names that come out of his mouth where he just kind of freezes and just has nothing but respect. It's almost like he's in awe. And there's only a very few amount of surfers that, cause him to kind of pause and reflect in that manner. And you're one of them. Like, he has nothing but love and adoration for you. He always says, his biggest goal for winning Pipeline is to get that special surfboard that you make for all the winners. How does that feel to you when a surfer like Kelly Slater has that amount of admiration and respect?
Well, that's quite an honor coming from Kelly. He truly is probably the greatest surfer that's ever lived, and he continually shows the world that year after year in, the contest circuit. I mean,
yeah.
But besides his surfing, he is a gentleman in every way, and actually quite a talented guy, outside of his surfboard as well.
Yeah.
He does play some incredible music.
Golf.
And golf, too. I'm not a golfer, but I hear he's pretty good.
Oh, he's amazing. A couple of the interviews I did with him were at Pebble Beach. He's a scratch golfer, which I'm sure you know what that means. It's just, he's incredibly good. And he's also a martial artist on top of all that.
Well, I guess you don't want to mess around with him.
No. I guess
you can never catch him anyway in the water. And not only can he surf faster than anyone, he probably can paddle faster than anyone as well.
That's so true. And we're joined by Gerry Lopez here on WaXed. How often do you go back to Hawaii? Like, is it once a year, twice a year? Like, how often do you go there?
Probably 3 or 4 or 5 times a year.
Okay.
For various different events and just functions and just for the chance to get over there. I just over the past, actually it's been about 10 years now, have rediscovered the beauty and magic of Waikiki. When we grew up, we always surfed the South Shore Waikiki area in the summertime, and then that was, to get in shape for the big waves on the North Shore.
Mm-hmm.
And as surfing got more popular, Waikiki got very crowded, and the whole tourist thing really got big over there. And so we kind of actually avoided Waikiki as we got older. And just lately, I've gone back and found everything that I used to, that I grew up with and used to love about Waikiki is still there. I mean, it's a magic place. The Hawaiians call the waters right there in front of Canoe Surf Wehe, which means the healing waters, because they would go there to just immerse themselves in the water, whether they were sick physically or even feeling bad mentally or spiritually, and felt that they would be cured just by sitting in the water.
Is it true?
So that's where I'm going.
Is it true? Does it work?
I think it does.
Wow.
I mean, that was the thing that I went, wow, I really feel good being here. In spite of all the crowds and the tourists. I mean, in a way that makes it even more fun.
It does, and Waikiki is a blast. It's just a fun wave. I completely agree with you on that. And before I let you go, Gerry, I have a random question, just because you are, considered to be such an amazing surfboard shaper. How do you feel about like all these companies are going overseas now and mass producing boards? I mean, are you indifferent to it? Does it bother you? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, there's been all through the, my career in surfing, there's been a lot of things that at first, looking at it or thinking about it, they were kind of bothersome. But after thinking about them more, I realized that all these things that happen are inevitable. I mean, there was no way that our domestic industry was really going to keep up with the growing population of surfers. And, the need for more and more surfboards, and obviously, many things are manufactured overseas, and they do a very good job on surfboards as well. Traditionally, surfboards have always been built by surfers, and I still, think that there's something to that, but I look at all these boards being built in China and different parts of Asia, and think that they're actually doing a better job than I could do.
I don't know if that's true, but
in some cases.
Oh, that's fascinating, Jerry. And we're joined by Gerry Lopez here on WaXed. You're in Oregon. You've been a member of Patagonia for a relatively long time now. So I'm guessing when you mentioned that you go in the Oregon waters, which are freezing, and you barely feel it because you feel so warm, it's because of the Patagonia wetsuit. Is that correct?
They have a very fine wetsuit.
They do indeed.
And in fact, sometimes they're too warm.
I know you're sweating out there.
Literally, yeah. The last time I was out there, it was the air temperature was really warm, and I was literally sweating bullets inside my wetsuit. So I peeled it down, and was surfing with the naked from the waist up, and it felt pretty good for a while. And then, the 46-degree water got to me.
Oh, that's awesome. By the way, you have a son, is that correct?
I do.
How is he as a surfer and snowboarder?
Well, that was one of the big reasons we moved up here to Oregon. When he started the first grade, that was back in '95, was when we came here pretty full time for him to go to school. And so he's grown up snowboarding more than surfing.
Wow.
And he's a terrific snowboarder, but we just got home last weekend from a week in Mexico on a surfing trip with a bunch of great friends and great old friends.
Love Mexico.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And so he's still with you up there? Is he pretty much working with you?
He actually works for Volcom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and their snow division.
Fascinating. Is he is he in Fiji right now?
No, he's works with the snowboard team.
Okay.
So he's here because they're going to start their camps up at Mount Hood.
That's right.
Pretty soon. Looking out the window right now, all the mountains are still completely snow covered.
Oh, I know. And Mount Hood is all. I mean, they have those glaciers at the top, so it never really stops, right? It's just 24/7.
And they, had for a relatively low snowpack year, Mount Hood still has a terrific amount of snow on the ground.
That's fantastic, Jerry. Well, congratulations on just an absolutely wonderful career that you've had. I mean, there's a good reason why you've earned the respect of literally everybody in surfing. And again, your chances are you're going to be in this movie. It's called Uncharted Waters. It's a documentary about Wayne Lynch that Patagonia produced. And if you go to Patagonia's website, that's patagonia.com, and go to their surf blog, you can find information about it. There are screenings of it coming up here in Southern California, June 20th in Santa Monica at the Broad Stage, June 21st in Encinitas at the La Paloma Theater, and then in New York City on June 27th at the Village East Cinema. If you visit patagonia.com, you can get information about that movie screening. And are there any other sponsors that you have? Anything else you want to promote? Take it away.
Well, I've gotten into the sport of stand-up paddle surfing lately, and that's also another form of wave riding that we have yet to ease the tension between the regular lay-down surfers and the stand-up paddle surfers. But, that's been a thing that's been ongoing since the boards went from long to short. I remember the longboarders would yell at us, you guys are getting in the way, move, And then when the longboards came back, everybody's going, oh, man, these guys are catching all the waves. And then, there was the same thing with the boogie boarders and with the windsurfers when they started windsurfing through the surfing lineups. And there's always been this little bit of rivalry, and right now it's between the stand-up guys and the lay-down surfers. So we're trying to integrate right now. But I prefer either or, depending on the conditions. And this stand-up sport is becoming more and more popular. We actually have an event down at Doheny. It's at the end of September, called the Battle of the Paddle.
Okay.
And it's the biggest stand-up paddling event there is, and we attract quite a field. And if anyone's down there wants to see what the sport's all about, maybe try a board out, do a demo or something, or just see some really exciting racing, that's a great event to come and take part in.
Okay. And that's at the end of September?
That's at the end of September.
Well, maybe I'll give you a call as it gets closer, and we'll get you back on to help promote it.
Yeah, you got my number. Please do.
I do, absolutely. Thanks, Jerry. And anything else? So Patagonia, obviously. Is there a website for people who are interested in buying a custom surfboard that you would shape?
Oh, yeah. You can. I build surfboards at Patagonia as well.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Jerry, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. You're a legend of the sport. I mean, the surfing wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for you. And it really was a pleasure, man. Thank you for joining the program.
Well, likewise, Cyrus. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you, Jerry. Have a great day.
You too.
Beautiful. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and that was Gerry Lopez here on WaXed on ESPN 1700.
Visit our website, waxedradio.com, to get complete show podcasts and follow us on all social media at WaXed Radio. Now, here's a recap of the weekend surf news.
Yeah, welcome back to WaXed Surf Talk Radio here on ESPN 1700. Special thanks again to Gerry Lopez for joining the program. The man, the myth, the legend himself. And again, if you missed any segment of that interview and you want to listen to the whole thing, just visit our website, waxedradio.com. That's waxedradio.com, where we podcast all of our shows. And if you're wondering why we're on at this hour, it's because from time to time we have to move our time slot. And the only way to follow where we're at each week is to follow us on Twitter at WaXed Radio. Again, that's at WaXed Radio. I'd recommend us following us on Facebook, but the problem with Facebook is that it's like the new MySpace now. It's nothing but glitches, and it sucks. I mean, your grandparents are on it now, so no one wants to use it. And we can't even create a username for a Facebook page because the whole page portion of Facebook is messed up right now. They got bugs everywhere. So just follow us on Twitter at WaXed Radio, and visit our website, waxedradio.com. Omar.
Jerry, how's it going, man? What a great interview with Gerry Lopez. What a legend.
Seriously, I mean, he really is. Like I said, going into the interview, I did not realize that he just kind of packed up and left Hawaii that many years ago, like 20 years ago. He became as big of a snowboarder as he was surfer. It's crazy.
No, it's absolutely amazing that just his whole journey in life. And one thing that people forget is not only, did he create the sport of surfing in the water by his wave riding, but by his personality. I mean, the guy, he was the very first guy that really, looked at himself as, a marketable person. And, the stories go on and on about, doing his hair before he showed up at the Pipe Masters and all these crazy stories on the underground. That's just, it's awesome, though. I mean, what an amazing, star in the sport.
Absolutely. And a special thanks to Gerry Lopez. And again, if you missed that interview or any portion of it and want to listen to the whole thing, just visit our website, waxedradio.com. Well, there's a lot going on in the news. Natalie Rose has been absent for almost a month, so I'm sure she's going to be playing catch-up with us here. Natalie, what's been happening in surf news?
Well, for this next story, I might murder a couple of names, so Omar and Cyrus, don't be afraid to correct me. But in big wave surfing, the 2013 Quiksilver Ceremonial Chile were canceled due to unexpected conditions. Earlier this week in Pichilemu, Chile, I believe, the 2013 Quiksilver Ceremonial presented by Subaru was canceled. The forecast originally projected 15-foot waves for the contest. Unfortunately, the waves never reached the necessary height, and the contest was canceled. Instead of holding regular contest heats, expression sessions were held instead. Chilean hero Romano Navarro was awarded the biggest wave with the most critical drop, while Christian Muriello, the 2010 ceremonial champ, was awarded best wave of the day. The $50,000 prize purse was divided up amongst the 24 big wave contestants, and then special bonuses were given to the 2 winners.
So the 2 names, I don't know if how do you pronounce Pichalamu? Maybe you do, O-Dog.
Nope.
All right. Who cares? But it's Chile. It's not chili, like chili you'd eat from a bowl. And it's Ramon Navarro. Otherwise, you did a great job with that. Here's what's fascinating about this story. And O-Dog, you and I can talk about this probably for a couple minutes at least. So it's been almost a year since they last held the Mavericks contest. Now, that was full of controversy because they gave the green light to that event like 72 hours before it happened. And any casual observer who went online to see what was going on with the swell could see that it was not going to be that big. Now, they greenlit the contest. They ran it. We had Peter Mell on the show just a week ago. Fantastic interview with the Big Wave Surfer. And if you missed that, again, go to our website, waxedradio.com. We podcast all of our shows. Peter Mell told us on this show just a week ago he almost blackballed that event. He almost didn't go because he knew the waves were small. He sucked it up. He actually went on to win the whole thing. Fast forward, I don't know how many months later, now we have another event as part of the Big Wave World Tour, which is now part of the ASP World Tour. We talked about that last week. And they bring all the surfers down. That is not an easy trip to get to Chile, all right? It's not just a 2-hour flight. We're talking, there's no straight flights to Chile from anywhere around here. So it takes a while just to get there. I've heard rumors it takes like 24 hours just to get down there. You get there, the day of the event, the surf's 15 feet. So that's twice in a year now. And I don't want to drag Gary Lynn's name into this because I know he's not the only guy who's greenlighting this event. But his name is the one that's plastered all over these stories. And that's twice in a year now he's given the green light, him and whoever else is involved, and I'm guessing sponsors are pushing him too, saying go ahead and run the event, only to have the event be a lackluster swell. And something's going on here. I don't know if in both cases or if in all the cases now you have sponsors pushing the organizers to run this thing because they want their name plastered all over the place because they're already investing money, or if the organizers themselves are suddenly have no idea how to forecast swells. What's your opinion on this, Omar?
You know what? This is the unfortunate part of the big wave surfing, period. I mean, we talked about it in our last show, and that is, okay, mass appeal could probably be better than performance surfing in the big wave arena. So your mass appeal is better, but the one thing that people don't talk about is these swells don't come that often. I mean, this is something that they're going to have issues with during the whole world tour. So, it's a bummer. They're going to have to deal with this again and again. I think they did a decent job of trying to, run something. But, I mean, it's just such a tough call. I mean, is it better off for the Big Wave World Tour to just completely cancel or run these other events, best drop and all that stuff? It's something that they should probably have some meetings about. That some people may say, hey, it'd be better off to cancel because then you continue the legacy of big waves.
Right.
And, kind of the interest. You can still get a lot of chatter online, just people looking to see if events start. So,
yeah,
that's such a tough call, but it's something they're going to have to face really soon, especially with the ASP coming on board. So we'll see.
Now, the fascinating thing, and this is why I consider this to be somewhat controversial, is because until this year, now you suddenly have the Big Wave World Tour, which means you now have an organization that's trying to profit off all these big wave surf spots. You have the ASP involved, but until this year, you never really had this sort of issue. Every time Mavericks ran, it was always during bombing conditions, huge waves. When they had the surf contest at Dungeons in South Africa, it was always massive when they had the surf contest. Look at the ultimate model of consistency and success, Waimea Bay, the Eddy. They run that thing maybe once every 5 years at the most because they make sure they only run it when the swell is legitimate. Now, and this is why I'm starting to think that maybe money, sponsors, those are starting to come into play here because they want to see their name mentioned because they're putting money into this. And organizers are almost handcuffed to make these calls or at least to generate this hype so that they can make their sponsors happy. And it's crazy, you know. And you're right. We're probably going to start seeing this on a more regular basis because now you have more money coming in. Now you have actual companies sponsoring these big wave events. And the downside to that is, you know, the integrity of the sport in general is going to be compromised because you're not going to have these fantastically huge, monstrous waves that are the most appealing. Also, that the sponsors can get their name out there more. But who knows? Or it could just be a coincidence that twice in 1 year we've had lackluster waves for these big wave events. Who knows? I don't know. Natalie, what else? No,
totally.
Sorry. Natalie Rose, what else is going on in the news?
Okay, well, let's move up to Omar's neck of the woods. A fake shark warning sign posted at Pleasure Point in Santa Cruz. Did you hear about this, Omar?
Oh, I was there that day. It was hilarious.
Okay, well, this past Thursday morning, 8 shark warning signs were posted around Pleasure Point in Santa Cruz, California. The signs claimed that there were three great white attacks in 3 popular surf spots. The signs also stated that the surfers should stay out of the water for 48 hours or go to Cal's Beach if they want to surf. Cal's in Santa Cruz is on the west side of Santa Cruz, while Pleasure Point is on the other hand is on the east side. The two sides are longtime rivals. Though the signs were fake, they appear to be official because they did have state park logos all over them.
Well, that's probably what made them seem so legitimate for a while, is plaster those little logos on there.
I was kind of curious, like, you saw this, Omar?
Yeah, it was so funny. I can't believe it actually worked. That, like, literally Pleasure Point was lined with news media from all over the Bay Area. It was so funny. I mean, you know, I was talking to a lawyer out in the water that day, and, you know, we're discussing, like, I mean, technically, could this person, if they're found, get sued? I mean, that's pretty. They seriously started a major amount of controversy. It was really funny. But, I mean, hey, you know, it was literally probably a couple groms saw the swell coming and wanted to do a fun prank, you know. So
yeah, there's
maybe it worked. Maybe it kept some people out of the water because the waves were pretty much perfect.
Yeah, there's definitely no coincidence there that these signs were posted right when one of the best swells of the year was showing up to Santa Cruz. But it's you know what gave it away for me? I was reading the story because initially you're right. The news went with the story and published this as fact. That's how this first started. First, there was a news story out there saying, you know, there was a shark attack, or there was numerous sightings. A kayaker and I think a stand-up paddleboarder were both literally attacked, and the news went with it. And then a couple hours later, it was revealed that it was a hoax. So, but when it first came out, the alarms were ringing out for me because has there ever been a shark actually in Pleasure Point? Like, has a great white ever breached the kelp beds to creep up where the Pleasure Point surfers are?
Well, that's the interesting part as well. I was talking to some other relatives up here in beautiful Redding who don't surf, and
where you're at today.
That is a path that sharks take. They go all the way down to Capitola and then back up to Año Nuevo. I mean, what a perfect feeding ground. I mean, that's right where the canyon is. It drops off. There's a ton of good food. But, you know, there's one fact that a lot of surfers talk about, and that is, you know, a shark is literally the size of a bus. What a decent-sized great white is 20 feet plus long, and the width of a Volkswagen Bug. I mean, so try moving through kelp like that. I mean, imagine a bus trying to drive through the jungle, you know, it's with no road. So, you know, usually they hug the outside of the kelp beds because that's the best place to eat, too. That's where the bigger fish and the seals feed as well. So, but yeah, there is sharks that cruise that exact area. So, you know, that's true. And I've seen real photos of that. But as far as this hoax, I think it's hilarious. And, you know, you almost got to give props to the Groms.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of Photoshop and a night at Kinko's, and they literally started, you know, a frenzy. It's hilarious.
I think it's great.
My guess is this wasn't Groms. This was someone like more on the adult level who might even be a professional. Just because it was just too smart. I mean, I've seen enough Groms who surf, and I'm sorry, dude, I just don't see the intelligence factor kicking in where they come up with something this creative. I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was Omar.
Yeah, it was you.
Well, the rumors are that the ages were around 19 to 22. That's
okay.
all I'll say. That's all I know. so I guess Groms to me, but not 17. But hey, 19 to 22.
Rumor. Omar, get ready to get a phone call from the cops in.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information right there.
I'm 36, so it's not me.
Natalie, what else is happening?
Okay, well, Long Beach trims surfing out to prepare for swimmers. Swimmers of Long Beach protested earlier this year about how there was not enough places to swim. So what happened is they had this big debate, they protested, and basically they came up with the idea of taking the 3.5 beach and dividing it up into 5 sections and taking 2 of those sections and making them surfing and 3 of them swimming to compromise with the swimmers and make them happy.
How is that possible? You said there are 3.5 miles of beach, and they want to split it up into 2 for one and 3 for the other. That's 5 miles. That makes no sense.
No, there's 3.5 miles of beach, and they're going to split that 3.5 miles into 5 sections.
Oh, into 5 different sections?
Yes.
What would each section entail?
So I'm guessing the way the article is so you have 5 sections. So the first section, let's say, is swimming. Then the second section is surfing, and the third is swimming. The fourth is surfing, and the fifth, they're going to go every other one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's the way I understood it in the article.
You know, what they really need to do with this, and you know, the only area I know of where they have legitimate signs where they separate surfers and swimmers, and I know there's a lot of places like that in Hawaii, but here in California, the only place I've really seen that is Pacific Beach in San Diego. I don't know if there's anywhere else that has those kind of divisive lines where swimmers just cannot go here, surfers just cannot go here. Are there other places besides PB?
Oceanside, Tamarack.
Tamarack has that too?
Yeah, Tamarack has it.
Wow.
If you pull into Tamarack right there at the lot, that's all surfing. But then if you go past Tower 36, between Tower 38, that's all swimming. And then on the other side of Tower 38, surfing. So that middle section. So they have a lot, and then Newport and Huntington as well.
Okay. So.
Yep. And then throughout Malibu area too. I mean, literally most of Southern California has blackballed beaches.
So why not take it a step further then and start creating areas just for stand-up paddleboarders? You know? Like that would solve the problem instantly. Just have certain areas, SUP kooks, you go there. Surfers, you keep surfing where you were. Swimmers, you get your section. Problem solved.
But then they also try to remember, a couple of years ago, they were trying to say, those INS boards or INT boards, they were trying to say those could go in the swim zone.
What's an INT board?
They're kind of like a foam board. They're
It's called a black ball beater.
Yeah, a black ball beater.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
black ball beater, because they have a length, they literally have the law. There's actually a written law about black ball areas. So if you read into it, it's a certain length, and then it also has fins. So these boards have these tiny little fins.
Yeah.
I believe they're basically a surfboard that was under, I think it's 4 feet, I believe, and it has to be soft too. So yeah, I mean, these guys are surfing right in the areas that really pissed off a lot of the lifeguards. But I'm not sure if they're allowing those anymore. But yeah, the black ball beaters are pretty crazy. As far as SUPs, I mean, is there even enough SUP surfers to warrant this? I mean,
there will be.
I don't know.
I mean,
it's true.
Those numbers are just going up. Laird Hamilton just started his own company officially where he's shaping and designing his own stand-up paddle boards. You know, we just had Gerry Lopez on the show 20 minutes ago talking about how he prefers a stand-up paddleboard now instead of surf. Dude, it's not going away. You know, and if you go to Hawaii, they're rampant. They're all over the place there. California, they continue to grow in popularity. At a certain point, if you don't figure this out and kind of regulate it, I mean, who's going to go out there and surf anymore if the line is going to be flooded with stand-up paddleboarders? You know.
You know what though? I worked in the SUP industry. I was a sales rep for Surf Tech for 3 years, and over the last 2 years, what we did see was the extreme decrease of SUPs in the ocean.
Wow.
But the extreme increase of SUPs in flat water, which, I love flat water SUPing, and that's a lot of what Jerry and those guys do. And, that is, these boards are 14 feet long. If you come near a wave, you're going to fall. You can't ride waves on these things. So, I don't think that the wave riding part of SUPing is going to become bigger and bigger. I believe that the flat water will, so I don't know. I don't think we should be giving them an area, but whatever.
Well, if you're right, then then that's fine. In my opinion, for example, if you go to North County here in San Diego, there's an unwritten rule where the stand-up paddleboarders go to Cardiff, and everyone else goes to Pipes and Swamis and those places. And it seems to function fine for the most part because you kind of have your areas and, you don't have conflict essentially. But yeah, it's, if there isn't going to be drastic increase, yeah, there's no issue. But if suddenly more and more people start getting into this, and all of a sudden you see a lineup flooded with stand-up paddleboarders, so you're saying in Santa Cruz, what do they do there? Where do most of the stand-up paddleboarders go in Santa Cruz to surf?
It's similar to what you're talking about. There's areas where there's tons of them, and then the well-known point breaks that are more difficult to ride, you won't find, maybe one.
Gotcha.
And a big lineup. But I mean, you got to look at Santa Onofre too. What happened down there? I mean, that they literally had to stop allowing that because people got hurt. I mean, Santa Onofre is a wave that rolls for 600 yards.
Yeah.
It's a 1 foot wave, and these guys are losing the boards, and they're literally like knocking kids out, like hitting them in the back of the head. So, yeah, they had to really come together and get rid of it. So
didn't they move them down the beach though? I thought they moved them down, like they couldn't go Old Man's or something. I thought I heard you could.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
You have to go south or
so
something.
far down, though.
Yeah, they're like way far down.
Campgrounds, basically.
Oh, so these rules are already in place for stand-up paddleboarders?
In that area.
In certain places. Yeah. Oh, good. All right, there you go. That's great. Props to whoever at Santa Onofre is setting these rules up.
Hey, props to the guys doing it in lakes. That's all I gotta say.
Yes. Lakes, and even if you're I have nothing against them being in the ocean. It's just when you start competing against, like, normal surfers for waves, that's when it becomes an issue, just because they have such an advantage. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, there's no chance for regular surfers to compete against them at all. They have easily a 10-foot, 15-foot head start. It's just, I guess that's literally what my issue is with it. Like, whereas if you have at least designated areas, you're not going to have that sort of competition. What else is going on?
Okay, well, do you guys know who Cody Simpson is? No? Yes? Maybe?
I've heard of him. Is he related to the?
He's a teen heartthrob.
Is he related to the Simpson sisters?
I don't think. No, Ashley
Okay.
and no.
Okay.
No.
And big boobs?
Yeah, pregnant one. No, he is not related to them. But he is not a singer anymore. He is now a surfer too. For this video, he put out a video on YouTube. He's in a wetsuit and he's surfing and he's with his buddy Jake Thorpson or Thrump. I don't know.
Okay.
And then a few of his friends, and they're in Huntington, California, and he's trying to show him that he has a different side of him and that celebrities can surf too. As
a respected journalist, Natalie, I'm sure you watched the video. How did he do surfing?
He stood up.
Okay. Really? That's all he did? He just popped up?
Well, it wasn't like he was throwing any spray or chucking any buckets or anything.
Well, I'm not expecting that, but is he at least go riding down the face of the wave? I mean, is he actually making a turn? I mean,
yeah, he stood up. He was riding the face of a wave.
Okay.
He wasn't just riding whitewash. But I just think it's kind of funny because I never was personally a fan of his music, but my friends were, I guess, when we were younger, and I was just oh my gosh, really? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's surfing, dude.
But
I've never heard of the guy.
Did the video look legit? That would be my question.
At first,
did it look good?
At first, I was okay, and then I don't know. I couldn't even watch the whole thing. I was I don't know.
Okay, so if you can't watch it, so it wasn't okay. That's a no.
I was this isn't really up my alley. I was I watched it. I saw what I needed to saw. So, but
gotcha.
All right, are you guys ready to move on?
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Police arrested Gotcha Surfwear co-founder in Laguna Beach. A retired professional surfer who co-founded Gotcha Surfwear was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence and suspicion of cocaine possession after a traffic accident in Laguna Beach, police said Wednesday. Police charged, Michael Elliot Tomson, 58, of Laguna Beach, who's had 2 felony counts of DUI and a possession of controlled substance, as well as a misdemeanor count of being under the influence of drugs.
O-Dog, no, Gotcha's is really as old school as it gets when it comes to these surf brands, at least dating back to the 80s. And I remember, I was in 4th grade, and it was a popular brand. I'm 35 years old. O-Dog, I'm sure you remember Gotcha as well as anybody. I didn't know much about the founder, this Michael Elliot Tomson guy. Until, I've read about this story. This happened a month or 2 ago. This is kind of an old story, but are you familiar with him, Omar?
Yeah, actually, Gotcha was my first clothing sponsor when I was 14 years old. I rode for them for about 3 or 4 years, and I actually worked with MT over at La Jolla Group with Rusty Clothing. So, yeah, I know him personally and really familiar with the story of Gotcha. You know, he wrote an amazing book. I forgot the name of it, but it talks about the rise and fall of Gotcha. And Gotcha was the first company to go mainstream in the sport of surfing. Unbelievable story, really. I mean, you know, and did it in the 80s. You know, it was like pre-surf boom. It was insane.
No, these are the Brad Gerlach, Mike Parsons era when like it was all about flash and substance.
Color.
Yeah, color, yes. It was a crazy era. And do you remember when people would point at you? There's such a little kid, they'd be like, gotcha. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
I totally remember that.
Yeah, remember the little fish man? I mean, it had the first recognizable icon, too, in the sport of surfing. I mean, it's a silly-looking fish with a flag.
Yeah.
It's the fish man. You didn't even know I had that Gotcha shirt. You know, and the interesting thing, the rise and fall of Gotcha was that, you know, their distribution went all the way to, like, Sears and crazy places that obviously made them extremely profitable. But, you know, that's a cliff that you create with distribution, and they fell off it hard. So, you know, MT, great guy. That guy is so fun to hang out with.
He sounds like
I know. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
He sounds like a great time.
And so Michael Tomson, the founder of Gotcha, he goes by MT.
Yeah, we call him MT.
Okay.
He's a great guy, dude. He's awesome. You know, sounds like, you know, he just had a little run-in with the law. probably had similar situations within his life, dude. He's rad. He's a great guy.
Dude, it happens. And so the funny thing is, if you look at the mugshot, it's very it's very Gary Busey-ish. It's very Nick Nolte-ish. Just hair all over the place. I mean, the guy's almost frazzled. He's almost 60 years old. The funny thing is, this wasn't the first time he did this. I think he got a Dewey just like a year earlier. So he's in deep trouble, if I'm not mistaken. Now, he does have a ton of money as well. But fascinating story. MT, Michael Tomson, the co-founder of Gotcha.
Great guy. Well, the funny part is, you know, that's the way he looks. I mean, that's kind of like the marketing genius. I mean, he actually puts time into the way he looks, and he dresses to the T. But that's his, you know, signature messy hair, and I don't care. Look.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a legend. But yeah, he should maybe possibly hire a chauffeur. He's got the pocket.
Seriously,
he's a great guy.
He's almost 60. What's crazy? He's almost 60 years old, dude, and he had blow on him. Wow. How does your heart take that at 60?
Oh my God, that's insane.
How do you handle bumps at 60 years old, dude? That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, you party hard, you know. It's on a regular basis. Natalie, anything else going on in the news?
I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. Well, this one I really liked because I'm always a fan of Sexwax just because of the name. But, you know, the California-based Mr. Zogs Sexwax and Australian swimwear, firm Zogs, faced off in court yesterday. Actually, the story's a little old as well, but in a trademark dispute dating back of a verbal argument more than 20 years ago. Mr. Zogs Sexwax is an international brand of wax used to improve grip on surfboards. Zogs, on the other hand, makes goggles and swimwear. So they faced off in court, and Zogs Sexwax end up winning. So
I've always been a sticky bumps guy myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to get a hold of, but there's nothing better than, like...
Sexwax.
I mean, wouldn't you want to be sponsored by Sexwax and you could put it on your board?
Oh, yeah.
When I was younger, I was like, oh, that would be the best.
Oh, in terms of name, I mean, Sexwax, hands down,
and
the winner.
it's old school.
It is old school. And I know, Omar, you've always been a Sexwax guy yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, no, Quick Humps. Can't get better than that. And what a name. Sexwax Quick Humps. The company's rad. I'm really glad they won that lawsuit because, you know, people don't realize the company's, I mean, for how massive it is to our sport, they're not that big of a company. You know, it's just wax and T-shirts. So I'm glad they won that lawsuit.
Yeah, that is good. And before we wrap the news up, I want to mention as well, you know, the Vulcan Pro Fiji is happening. They've completed 2 days of it. They keep saying in the media 3 days. I don't know where that third day came from because one day had the first round almost at completion. The second day finished the first round and then did the second round and I think started the third round. And that's it. They've done 2 days total. You got to keep reading 3 days. But it's I don't know if it's happening today. I don't know if they greenlit it. They've had some incredible swell. They've had to move it from cloud break to restaurants. I didn't realize, and Omar, I remember one year you were a webcast commentator for the contest out there. You were doing like film parts with Kelly Slater. I remember like he was chasing down these crazy poisonous snakes they have on that island, and you were like doing an interview with him there. But I didn't realize that, like, restaurants is where they go to when cloud break is too big. How is cloud break too big for these guys?
Well, you know what? Restaurants, it's not only where you go when it's too big, it's where you go when the wind is bad for cloud break.
So it's wind.
So, yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, and did you see how heavy the wind was that day at restaurants? I can only imagine cloud break. I mean, the wind out, because cloud break is not near either of the islands. It's, hence the name cloud break. So It's kind of in the middle of the ocean in a sense, and it's very susceptible to hard winds. So, I imagine they made a great call because restaurants was going off, and I mean we saw some of the best surfing. I mean,
incredible
in the history of surfing. I mean, with John's heat. So
incredible, dude. You're absolutely right. The John Florence heat. I mean, dude, those waves were stunning. I really couldn't believe it. Nat Young, ASP World Tour rookie from Santa Cruz, he was saying those are the best waves he's surfed in his entire life. That's a bold statement. You know?
I know, from a guy on the World Tour. So I think they made a great call, and that is a really tough place to run an event. I mean, everyone looks at it like, oh, they just sit there and, drink and eat and have an event. But,
right.
Going out to cloud break's a mission. If the wind's wrong, it can be pretty gnarly, and they have to get up so early to make the calls because they have to boat out there and check it and boat back.
Right,
so,
right.
Props to those guys for keeping that event going. It's from what I hear, extremely expensive, and I was there. It's a tough event to run, but when it goes off, dude, it's insane.
Yeah, it is one of the world class waves in the world, and it is in the middle of nowhere. I'm sure the logistics of pulling off a webcast must be difficult. The one issue I have with this contest this year so far is their webcast crew. I've never, I've been watching webcasts of surfing on the ASP World Tour for many years, pretty much since they started having webcasts. I've been watching these things, and for whatever reason, the Volcom crew has hired the most unlistenable people ever. I don't want to mention names. It's not hard to figure it out, but there used to be a time where if you wanted to be a broadcaster, you actually had to know how to speak. You had to articulate yourself. You had to have a good voice. Those rules apparently don't apply in surfing for webcasts, and they don't apply to most broadcast mediums nowadays, but those Volcom Pro Fiji webcast commentators are horrible. I mean, what a disaster. I have to put it on mute when I watch it, but fortunately the surfing is making up for it. But yeah, it's happening right now, and I'm sure by our show next week we'll know who the winner is, and we'll talk about it then. But have you heard in terms of, like, are they going to run it today? Have you heard anything?
No, I think the next call is in about 2 hours. So you can log on to the website and check it out. Just Google Fiji Pro Volcom, and it'll pop right up.
Yeah.
And the cool part about the website, too, is they have the local time out there in Fiji, so you can watch the countdown into the next call. So every time
Nice.
they do an update every few hours. They're doing a great job.
Dude, that's great. And speaking real quick of webcast commentating, I think a week ago we talked about how the ASP World Tour is eventually going to have just one set group of webcast commentators for like all their events instead of letting the event sponsors pick who gets to do it. You said that a week ago or so, right? Is that what they're going to do?
Yeah, that's what I believe they're going to do. I actually, someone emailed me. They did a casting call down in Los Angeles, I think about 4 or 5 months ago. So, Peter Mel, we talked about that as well. And, and I love it because Pete is such dude, he's a legend because he's also extremely honest about it all. I mean, he's like, hey, even our Quiksilver events. I mean, he's the brand manager of Waterman's at Quiksilver, and he's even talking about it. Hey, you know what? It's going to change. It'll probably be for the better, but even my brand, it's no longer going to be my people. So I'm really curious when that's going to kick into gear, but yeah, that's what's going to happen eventually.
Good. And hopefully, and I think we'll find out from that decision whether or not there is any competency with these new guys that are running the media side of the ASP World Tour. If you pick a guy like Dave Stanfield, Shane Dorian, these kind of names, Peter Mel, Rob Machado, there are guys out there who know how to keep the audience captivated, who are informative, who are entertaining, who have a good voice, who know what they're talking about, who aren't just idiots in that booth. And hopefully they'll make the right call. I really hope that's the case because a lot of people watch these things, and it'd be nice to actually have the audio on as well so we can hear some good commentating and go with the event. But anyways, thank you very much to Gerry Lopez for coming on the show. If you missed that interview, go to our website, waxedradio.com. We podcast every show. Just go to our website, waxedradio.com. And as Omar just mentioned a moment ago, Peter Mel was on the show a week ago. All of those interviews. We've had some great guests on this program. If you want to listen to the podcast, just go to our website, waxedradio.com. And if you're wondering why we're on at this time of day, sometimes the show has to move around. And the best way to find out when we're on is to follow us on Twitter at Waxed Radio. Again, our Twitter handle is at Waxed Radio. Omar, have a great time at that wedding in scorching hot Redding, California.
Oh, yeah. There'll be some silver bullets being pounded.
I know. Dude, it's water. When the weather is that hot, it's water.
It's true.
It's crazy.
It's true. I'll probably be about 10 deep with no buzz.
Beautiful. Natalie Rose, thank you as always for a great job with the Surfport News. And you have a great rest of the day.
ESPN 1700.
That is the station we are on. It's ESPN 1700, and we'll be back next week. Natalie, have a great day. Fantastic job as always.
You too. You have a good day. I'm going to go surf. Are you?
I have to be here for the entire rest of the day. I'm going to go to our sister station, the Mighty 1090, and set up for the Padres broadcast this evening. But you have fun surfing. O-Dog, you have fun at the wedding, and we'll be back next week. I'm Cyrus Saatsaz. This is WaXed on ESPN 1700.
That is it for us today, and we will leave you with a... I can't do it. No. We'll do it live. Do it live. Thing sucks.